Why, hello, and welcome to this very special interview that we have for you here at Book Lovers TV. I want to welcome you. And today I am so excited because our special guest on Book Lovers TV is author and physician, Dr. Nancy Hillis. Nancy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Tell us the name of your book.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I'm so excited to be here. And the name of my book is The Artist's Journey, Bold Strokes to Spark Creativity.
Right. You know, and that was kind of the cool thing that I guess I so resonate with you because we both have so many careers we've kind of done in our lives. And the fact that you are on one hand, you are a renowned artist, but on the other hand, you're also a very gifted physician. So when I knew that this was your book, because I didn't know until I read the book, like, oh my gosh, that's a very unique combination. Tell us who this book is for. I mean, who is this book? Who did you write this book for, Nancy?
Well, this book is for anyone who is interested in accessing and activating their creativity in one way or the other. And so it could be you're an artist, or it could be you are a cook or composer, or just interested in being creative in your life and bringing that into your life.
Essentially, and that's what I got out of the book as well, is that if you are really any kind of a creative, this book will help you. That's essentially what you're saying.
Yes. And if you just even yearn to be creative, you may think that you're not creative, but you yearn to be creative, this book is for you.
Yeah. And after having read this, because the first time, I pick up the book and I'm like, oh, this book is for artists and painters specifically. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Let me read through it. And I found that, yes, you definitely have things there for painters and artists, but so many of the principles that you cover are germane or applicable to any other creative endeavor. And the one thing I would say, as I read the book, you have like this one sort of core belief, this one core tenet.
Well, I believe that ultimately you must believe in yourself. That one of the things that gets in the way of creativity is kind of grappling with self-doubt. And so I want to help you to move past that self-doubt and into your fullest self-expression, your fullest exploration and experimentation.
It's really the process of trusting yourself, in other words.
Yes.
And kind of where,
absolutely.
And what sort of bubbles, allowing what's in you to bubble to the surface and somehow manifests itself in whatever creative endeavor that you're engaged in, right? I mean, that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's right. Because you know what, Daniel, the creative impulse, I believe, can be very subtle and it's easily missed or dismissed. We just go along and move ahead anyway. I think Churchill said something like, you'll stumble upon something, but then walk on as if nothing happened. And these little impulses can be super subtle. And if you can begin to listen to them and kind of trust yourself enough to do that, really exciting things start to unfold in your art and in your life.
Indeed. There's so much truth to that. And, one of the things that I thought was really interesting was in facilitating this sort of understanding and paying attention to those nudges, that still small voice, that you have come from the aspect of being able to look back at yourself sort of as a third party. And I thought, oh my, in other words, be be actively an observer, right, of yourself.
Yes.
How does that play with increasing your creativity?
Yes. So yes, I believe that kind of stepping back, and it's kind of bringing mindfulness into this, stepping into the observer role. The part of you can step back and watch yourself and allow yourself to experiment and explore. And within that kind of stepping back and observing yourself, you'll be able to notice the kind of inner landscape that affects everything. That is the inner dialogue, the inner narrative, and kind of step back and question that, or even just observing it can be helpful in freeing up your willingness to step into the unknown, which creating is about stepping into the unknown and allowing for surprise.
Yeah, speaking of the inner narrative, we all have this self-talk, right? We're always constantly talking to ourselves. And that's the other interesting approach that you take in the book, is you come at that from a slightly different way than how most of us talk to ourselves. Can you develop that a little bit?
Yes. So there's been a lot of research in this area. And on the one hand, some work was done at Columbia, and it had to do with the literal language that you use. And kind of one of the things that they found is, I think they were having people go and give a talk, which tends to bring up anxiety for people. And if the language that they used with themselves was I, very kind of first person pronouns, kind of like I'm worried, or I don't know if I'm very good at this, that type of language really led to a lot of difficulties. Whereas if you can step back enough to use a kind of second or third person, let's go do this, or even using your name, calling out your name, like saying to yourself, if you're Daniel, hey Daniel, let's go ahead and just step up there and give the talk. And that language, which is a little bit more distancing, actually was helpful in opening up the creativity and moving past fear. And then there's also wonderful work at Stanford by Carol Dweck on mindset, which is kind of growth versus static mindset. So understanding that you can keep learning and keep growing, and that's that growth mindset, rather than saying, well, I'm not very creative, or I didn't study art, or I haven't written very much. That's a more static mindset. So we want to encourage this unfolding of a growth mindset and believing in the possibility as you move along. And then lastly, there's one other thing, and that's Lev Vygotsky's work, where he talked about the zone of proximal development, where we have an ability, but we're not there yet in terms of something else. And so if we have someone help us to scaffold from this place where we are to where we want to be, that scaffolding can move us into that place. So that goes along, I believe, too, with a growth mindset. It's possible to move into places where you're not quite there yet, but you can get there.
Yeah, right on. And that's the other really kind of the cool thing that this book allows for. And in fact, I would actually even go so far as to say encourages the creative to be free enough to let go of the outcome of whatever the project happens to be. And even if in the final analysis, it is judged to be not good enough, to throw it away, which I was like,
yes.
Huh.
Yes.
I've never really thought about, doing anything for me personally, but I could see where that could be just tremendously freeing, right? To be able to, I don't have to create perfection. I don't have to create something I even like.
That's right. And, perfection ultimately becomes boring. And I think the exciting thing is that the so-called mistakes, I say that I think that the mistakes are often the embryonic forms of new work that's emerging, new work that's trying to be born. And talk a lot about, the surprise benefits of so-called ugly art, whether that's ugly paintings, ugly writing, what we think of as mistakes and very uncomfortable, foreign, almost adolescent forms. And yet, that's where the magic is. And so it's really embracing mistakes, ugly art, the unknown, because this is where the surprising work emerges. This is where innovation happens.
Absolutely. And see, when I read that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so cool, because it's in those innovations that somehow that can in fact bubble to the surface when you are not really worried about the outcome, right? You're not really worried about whether you're going to keep this piece or not. It's like it's kind of, it reminds me of the story of how the first pretzels were made. How there was this mistake, and then there was this innovation, and now everyone likes pretzels in this way, and whatever. So it's that sort of idea, right?
That's the idea, because even I think the sticky notes came out of that. It was some kind of adhesive that wasn't working correctly or something in the lab, in the chemistry lab, and yet
right. The 3M story. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes, the 3M story.
Of course.
So-called mistake, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So and basically what you're saying is it applies to everyone, every creative, no matter the art, and let it happen.
Yeah, it's so freeing. And it's a very foundational aspect of creativity.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I know that this book drives at, and that is the thought of the distance between 0 and 1, right? Which I loved. I love this concept. I actually adore this concept. So can you tell folks a little bit about what we're talking about here, the measuring 0 to 1 and so forth?
This is so exciting. So this is a concept from mathematics that absolutely is mind-blowing. And it is the concept that the interval between 0 and 1 is larger than the interval between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and so on. And this was like stunning to me when I learned this. And this can be described, it's very lengthy, but basically 0 to 1 is the biggest interval. And I think that maps onto from nothing to something, from no to yes, is enormous. And so what that means is that just starting is everything. 0 to 1, just start. So
yes, because
so exciting.
It's like you're not in being, you make a decision, and now you are in being, right? That's really what you're saying.
Yes.
And that is the longest distance, because a lot of people are paralyzed with fear that whatever they're doing isn't going to be good enough, or they're, for whatever reason, they procrastinate because they're perfectionists and they don't have the time to try to make it perfect. So many, and that's another message that I got so clearly in this book, is just doggone show up and do the work, right?
Yes. It's huge to just begin. Take the step. It's like when you go and maybe you want to go swimming, but you're like, oh no, it's kind of cold outside or whatever. Go to that swimming pool or ocean or wherever you're going. Put your toe in the water. That's 0 to 1. Begin, and then the likelihood of continuing increases if you'll just begin.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I really kind of thought was cool about what you talk about, and that is to keep your starts.
Yes.
Keep your starts. What is that about?
Okay, this is so exciting. Yes, we talk a lot in painting about starts, painting starts. So, and sometimes I'll have students let's create 20 painting starts. And it's kind of stream of consciousness, activating the canvas, allowing your gesture to come through. This might be in writing, just start writing spontaneously, and allowing those starts to live. And then later you can come back and say, hey, I'll work up this start further, or I'll just allow it to be as is. And so the more you create these starts, the more possibilities you're creating that you can play with further. And then this also leads to working in a series, so that one particular piece of art is not precious, but part of a series of experimentations.
I dig this too, because one of the other things that you talk about, and I think this definitely applies to what you're saying here, that life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved, right?
Yes, yes. I believe Kierkegaard talked about that. Yes, step into the mystery, allow the mystery, the not knowing, and not so much about solving every problem, but just being in this place of not knowing.
Yeah, and again, this is another reason why, because I think at my core, I'm just a scotch of a rebel, and I love the other thing that you said. Don't be ruled by rules. Don't be ruled by rules. So what does that mean for the creative? I mean, what are you trying to put across to the creative person when you say that?
Yes, I love that. Don't be ruled by rules. It's like, understand that there are principles and concepts and underpinnings of things. Yes. And yet you don't want to be ruled by rules. So you don't want your art to become formulaic. If you're caught up in the rules and everything has to follow the rules, then it becomes predictable. And we don't want to be predictable. And we don't want a repetition of what we've already done. We want to step into the unfolding and the surprise to see what wants to be born and created. So be aware of, that there are rules, but it's like, don't be ruled by them. You can have awareness of it, but you just don't want to be taken over.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe you would agree with this. I'd really like to know. But when you approach things in that way, it actually gives you the space to create something new, to come up and let the inner creative in you manifest itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what you're saying.
Yes, we're really talking
To me,
about,
anyway.
yeah, it's allowing. It's cultivating an attitude of allowing
Yeah.
the unknown to come through you, allowing the unseen, the inarticulable, the ineffable to come through. So, yes.
Yeah, I absolutely dig it. One of the things that I would really like to do, because we do have a splendid trailer for the artist's journey. I would, with your kind permission, I'd like to play it for our audience. Is that cool with you?
Fantastic.
Great. Let's do that right now. That's awesome, Nancy. And one of the other things that I want to encourage folks to do is obviously head over to grab the book. It is available wherever books are sold. But one other thing, you're kind enough to offer a very special gift to our Book Lovers TV audience. So I'm gonna put this up on the screen right now. This is really a great free gift that you can you can actually point your phone camera at it right now, and it'll take you over to where you can go subscribe and download for this. But what is this free gift that we have here it's at artistjourney.com/gift, or simply point your phone camera at this QR code that we see on the screen right now.
Yes, this is a creativity worksheet, and it has to do with 0 to 1.
Indeed. And that's the kind of the cool thing, once again, is that you have this opportunity to use this worksheet in a very, very constructive way to get more done, right? To actually get things rolling and have some production,
Yes.
which is again, it start right there at 1. So at any rate, that's where you go. It's completely free. If this resonates with you, if this discussion has really kind of hit some key notes for you, I would strongly recommend that you head on over there to this QR code and go get Nancy's free gift over there. And the other thing too, I will just say here is that as I read the book, this isn't just a book. This is not just a book. It is a book, yes, and so much more. For example, you have a variety of tutorials and videos. It's really a course.
Yes.
So what I'd like to do now is actually play one of the videos from that you recommend in the book. And I believe you mentioned a little while ago about activating the canvas.
Yes.
Right. I'd like to play that special video right now. Is that cool?
Okay. That sounds fantastic.
All right, let's do that.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hillis with The Artist Journey. Welcome to my studio. Thank you so much for joining me on this artistic exploration. Let's go create together. Today, we're activating the canvas. Activating the canvas is stream of consciousness mark making that brings the canvas alive and creates exciting painting starts. Now I'm just going to activate the canvas with mark making. These are thin lines with graphite, and I'm just covering the canvas. And I'm not really thinking, it's very stream of consciousness. One way to access this is to move rhythmically without thinking and planning. And you will create rhythmic movement that can be used as the start of a painting. So now I go in with a darker line to contrast with that thin line that I had previously. And I'm just trusting myself and playing. One of the things about trusting yourself when you paint is to allow the intelligence of your body to express itself. Much like when you were a child, you weren't afraid when you were a child. You picked up a paintbrush and splashed paint on paper, and you weren't concerned about what anyone else thought about it. As you notice, some lines are kind of curvy and some are more angular, and that's that contrast between curvilinear and angular. Sometimes I'll take an eraser and knock this back to make it more random. It could be a plastic eraser or a gum eraser. They give you different effects. Don't be afraid of mistakes. If you make a mistake, you can always knock it out, knock it back, and go back over it. Okay, now I'm going to go for a thicker marker. I'm using a Molotow marker, and that gives me quite a different line. Okay, now I'm going to add acrylic paint, and I will start with quite a thin brush. And that gives, again, a different weight as well. Use your body as an instrument and allow yourself to not know what you're going to do. Now I will bring in a thicker brush. This happens to be a fan brush, but it could be any kind of thick brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit here and there. Creating is stepping into a place of not knowing. Things that are unplanned, not strategic, not thought out. That's where the magic is. Join me next time to create differences with composition.
Awesome. All right. Well, so you get that, and you get so many other free, really cool step-by-step tutorials in the book as well. Can you describe a few of those other videos that we have for folks within the artist journey?
Yes, Daniel. So there are a series of tutorial videos that are in the book resource library, and besides activating the canvas, there's one on composition, another on value, and then there's another one that has to do with something I call the 6 maquettes. So that idea is playing with forms, much like Henry Moore did, the great British sculptor, but we're doing it with mark making and painting.
Awesome. And once again, we can get this book right here at Amazon.com. This is what it looks like. Here's the cover, but you could also get it from your website as well, I imagine, and I think you can get it right from this QR code once you download your free gift. Which, by the way, I think is probably the best way to be introduced to Nancy's work, and this is again completely free way to go about doing it and to kind of dip a toe. So my last question for you, Nancy, is when we talk about the creative and the whole creative process, there are so many solutions that have come by and through our creativities as humans. The way I see this book is, if you are an artist of any sort, this is a complete no-brainer. But if you just need more creative power, JP4 rocket fuel, this is the book.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I like to. I love the intersections of art, science, psychology, and creativity. And one of the concepts in the book as well is something called the adjacent possible, which is, you hear me talking a lot about stepping into the unknown. The adjacent possible comes from basically evolutionary biology of every move we make, every action we take illuminates a series of possible steps or paths. And that were not only invisible before you made your move, but also didn't even exist. So by your act of creating, you're actually affecting existence itself in whatever form you're creating, whether it's in the scientific laboratory, as a writer, as an artist, and this is a concept from biology. So it's really interesting. And I think it's so exciting to really give yourself that permission to step into your creativity.
Absolutely. And the other thing as well, that, and we sort of touched on this, but I think it bears really focusing on here, because I know that one of the reasons why I'm a creative and I enjoy creative endeavors is because it really, I mean, it's almost a high. It's not just a physical high, it's a spiritual high, it's an emotional high. But there's like two sides to that coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about that as well. You talk about the dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And develop that a little bit.
Yes.
Why should that stop an artist or a creative, and how do we overcome that?
Yes. So, in the great stories, we're really talking about what's been described as the hero's journey. And Joseph Campbell talked about that, but even before that, it was talked about. And it really is, and we see this in these stories and films and so forth. And where I first came across it was in Dante's Inferno. But basically, we have a yearning for something. We want to create something. We want to experience something. And yet we're afraid. And so the tendency is to turn our face away and refuse, at least for a while. But then eventually you can't take it any longer because this yearning and this calling is pulling you. And so finally you say yes to whatever it is. It might be going on an expedition, it might be writing a book, it might be composing music. And so you say yes, and then you're immediately plunged into perils. And the perils are self-doubt, inner criticism, second guessing, overthinking. What was I thinking? And so then what tends to happen is guides show up. And with Dante, it was Virgil, the great Roman poet, Virgil.
Of course.
But it could be your teacher, it could be a mentor. And so you keep going because you've got that support. And then, however, inevitably you hit that dark night of the soul that's been written about as well, across the ages. And that, I think, is the moment of greatest self-doubt. And it's also the moment you've got to face yourself, because you're really facing yourself. And if you remember the stories of Luke Skywalker and Star Wars and all that, it was the moment when he let go of the computer and the controls, and he just tuned in, and they didn't know what was going to happen, but he trusted himself in that moment. And I think that when you face yourself and your darkest, deepest doubts, and you wrestle down those dark angels, the transformation within that, on the other side of that, or within that, is to believe in yourself, to trust yourself even just a little bit more. And then you come into a different relationship to yourself. And then you come back, return to your life a little bit different, a little bit transformed. And
see, when you use that word,
right?
I was like, and I actually hadn't thought about it in those terms until you used the word transform. That's what I think this book can do for some people, without a doubt.
Yes.
This is a transformative, or a tool for transformation in somebody's life. And wow. It just now hit me that's exactly what this is all about. Really. Yes. Of course, it's about making art. It's about being creative and all that. But the end goal is, I started off like this, and now I'm completely changed. I'm born anew. Really.
Yes. That is the essence of it. Is transformation and ongoing spiraling, because we're continually unfolding as a person in our lives and in our art and in our creativity. So it's really seeing that and allowing that and going into those places and realizing that even that dark night, even those things that are terrifying are transformative, and you keep learning and evolving and trusting yourself more and more as you go. So yes, that's the deepest work.
Yeah, do I get an A?
Yes, you nailed it.
Good. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, Nancy, for taking the time to chat with the folks watching here at Book Lovers TV. Really, really appreciate it, and I really appreciate this this book. Once again, if you are a creative person at all, this book will well serve you. And once again, it is available right here on Amazon.com. And as we close here, I just wanted to once again remind you that if you have not yet grabbed your free gift from Dr. Hillis, Nancy Hillis here, go ahead and grab that right now. Point your phone camera right here at this QR code, or head over to artistjourney.com/gift. And with that, thank you so much, Nancy, for taking the time to chat to the community here. For folks watching, go grab this book right now. You're going to love it.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you. This was a beautiful interview and just very exciting for me to be in this conversation with you. And thank you to your wonderful audience too. So
absolutely,
I'll hold up the book and show you.
There it is.
I don't know if you can see it, but
oh, wow! Here, this is how we can see it. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Looks good.
It.
And I know you did the cover as well, right?
I did.
Yeah.
My painting's on the cover there.
It's awesome. With that, thank you. And go grab the book right now. Available wherever books are sold. Bye, everyone.
Bye.